Peoria QuadCon. How are you doing? Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Eric Wesselman. I'm a psychology professor at Illinois State University. I'm also a full-time nerd. In addition to psychology, one of my main passions is film, particularly films that are often in the margins, the wild, the weird, the wonderful, and sometimes the WTF. I am joined today by two wonderful guests who also have a passion for the cinema margins. We're going to talk about that today. First on my left is Brad Jones, also known as the Cinema Snob. In addition to his show on YouTube, he has also just written his first novel, Class of '86. Then on the far left, we have Lord Bloodraw, host of Lord Bloodraw's Nerve-Wracking Theater. It's on various TV and then recently the Nostalgia Network streaming platform. He hosts live events such as Chiller Diller Theater and Creatures Con in the Bay Area. So Lord Bloodraw, please welcome him as well. Do you have the mic over there? Oh, excellent.
Hello.
So I've got a couple questions that I've got for our guests for us to riff on for a bit. We'll do that for about 15 minutes or so, and then open it up to audience Q&A. So I guess the first question I want to ask you both is, people talk about loving bad movies, and usually that's in quotes, right? There are bad movies, and then there are objectively bad movies that you don't love that you just turn off. So what makes a quote-unquote bad movie for you? Something that you love to hate?
I mean, originality. It'll give you something you haven't really seen before that'll make you probably even go back to it more so than something that is objectively great. Like, okay, over the weekend I went to go see Oppenheimer, and it is great. It's a fantastic movie. Yeah, it'll probably make my 10 best, but there was another movie that I saw this year called Devil Conspiracy, where structurally it's absolutely absurd. The dialogue is insane. It has to do with a cloning cult that wants to take the DNA of Jesus and then make a clone of him through a baby so they can offer the ultimate sacrifice to Satan. And it has to do with art too.
Somewhere in there.
I will watch this movie more than I will the movie that will probably win Best Picture at the Oscars.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's got to have some originality to it, some WTF factor has to be involved in it. But I think it's kind of the disappointment of a movie when it premieres and you're disappointed in it. Disappointment plus time. For example, when both my two boys, when they were both young, I took them to see Batman and Robin. That's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Yeah. If it wasn't for them, I would have walked out. I thought, this is insane, this is crazy, what is this? Now, every time it's on TV, if I see it's on, I'm going to watch it. I was disappointed that I paid the money in the theater to see it, but now there are just so many what were they thinking moments in it that I love it. I love watching it. So there's something about that, trying to get behind what the creators were doing. What were you thinking? What were they thinking when they did this? Plus, I mean, you've got to have an absurdist, I think, sense of humor to enjoy this kind of thing. You've got to not be the kind of guy that goes into a movie and if it's not good, you feel that you've wasted your time. I mean, you've got to look at it as it's an entertainment. I was entertained by it. That's the cutoff point. Is objectively bad movie is boring.
Yes.
That's the worst thing. You hear, right? Plan 9 from Outer Space, worst movie ever. No,
it's not.
Because we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
What was the worst movie ever made? Nobody knows, because it played in a drive-in somewhere in Alabama in 1962, and it was so boring, nobody's talking about it. Right? So it's got to have all of those factors, but I think it also takes a really absurdist, some say twisted, sense of humor to enjoy these films.
It'll make you want to do research on them too.
Yes.
You'll see a great movie, and excellent. You'll recommend it to your friends and all that. I might not necessarily look up backstory on it, but I've seen Battlefield Earth many times, and I've looked up I'll go down a rabbit hole in the making of that film.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so there's definitely individual differences. We've got this sort of, I guess, morbid attraction to these things, right? And, you know, some of us, we love to just watch them. Some of us, we love to watch them many times, to do research, perhaps even to make careers out of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but definitely something that makes it stand out. But in addition to that, like, you know, you, for example, mentioned your sons were part of the attraction. You saw that film first with them, right? And so there's a social memory to it.
Yeah, they had to see the latest Batman. But again, if I wasn't with them, I would have walked out.
Right. Okay.
And I'm glad that I didn't, because now I revisit those, my God, slapping myself in the forehead moments enjoyably when I see them.
So what is it about watching these films with others, right? I mean, you can watch them by yourself, but there's also a lot of people who like to watch them together. So what are your views on that?
I think it's sharing a good laugh. It's always better to watch a movie with somebody else anyway. But when it's something you can go, look at that, what are they doing? That's even more enjoyable, I think.
And even like, yeah, it is. Like, you get that kind of communal experience, sort of like you're at just like a old theater by yourself and you're the only ones there. Like, you know, back in the days where you could probably smoke in a theater. Like, you know, so it almost kind of recreates that. Even sometimes looking at the reaction of the other person when maybe they're not there, but you have to describe it to them. Because when I'm watching these for my channel, most of the time I am by myself because I'm taking notes and everything, and it's my job. So I'm doing it like when my wife is at work. So when my wife comes home and she asks me how my day went, sometimes it is funny to see just the reaction on her face when I'm describing something like bat pussy, or you know, everything that went on in that film. She kind of got used to it over time. Now she's less shocked when I tell her about what the wacky porno is I watched every day.
And that kind of jaw-dropping element is so fun to watch. If you've seen something that's jaw-dropping, then exposing it to somebody else and watching their reaction. I have a dear friend of mine who is a die-hard Star Wars fan, loves Star Wars. She had never heard of the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, it's great.
She had never heard of it. And I was like talking about it and referencing it, and she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The Star Wars Holiday Special." She says, "What? You're making that up, right?" And I said, "Never seen it? No." I invited her over, she saw it, and throughout the entire thing she was just in disbelief that this occurred. In disbelief that it was actually made and aired. You know, so there's that jaw dropping.
And also just that it was like a relic of this time period of variety shows, which basically is if cocaine was a television show.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
very manic, hyper, and they get a little sleepy towards the end. Right?
Absolutely.
So it is a fascinating time capsule in that when that special came out, yeah, it didn't get very good reviews, but it was mixed in with reviews of several other variety shows that were out at the time. So now it's kind of fascinating looking at it, just isolating it from, like, you know, the Donnie and Marie variety shows that came out around the same time too. And of the bad Star Wars movies, it's the best one, because, like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that way more than I am Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, absolutely. Rise of Skywalker actually angered me. I laughed through the holiday special. Hey, come on, beat Arthur, right?
That part was great. You can find these hidden gem moments in it too, where there's B. Arthur running the cantina, and they're wanting to shut it down, and you're kind of invested in it because it's B. Arthur, and she's just naturally funny and quippy and charismatic.
Singing German chord songs.
Exactly. I'm like, I really want a sitcom out of this, like of B. Arthur running a Maud running a cantina. It's great.
Well, come on, Disney Plus, right? Let's see what we can
I say that, but I know I would be disappointed if they actually tried it.
It's never going to live up to what's in your mind,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Well, and with the Star Wars Holiday Special, right, with a lot of these films, even with the internets and the various like streaming services for sort of niche cult media, it's still very hard to find some of these things. Making like, you find that bootleg DVD, it's a treasure, right? You got to work for it to be a bad movie thing.
Yeah, it's easier now between sites like Cinemageddon and stuff like that. It's Tubi. Oh yeah, so many movies. I'm like, I don't even need to double check. I know this is going to be on Tubi.
Right.
I did one on Rat's Night of Terror the other day. I'm like, I know it's going to be on Tubi. That's a classic. Like, no, yeah. So it is. It is easier now, but you can still go down that rabbit hole and still discover some gems. Like, you ever see this thing called Fun in Balloon Land?
Oh, yes.
Dude.
Yes, yes.
I found that on a rabbit hole. Like, because, like, when you're into these kind of genres, your best friend is the section of, like, say you go to, like, a specific movie on a site like Cinemageddon, or hell, even Amazon. Like, but you go to that section where it's like, if you like this, check this out. It's your best friend. That's how I found Fun in Balloon Land.
A friend of mine back in California, sci-fi Bob Edgar, does a show called Psychotronics. He has that film in 16 millimeter.
Shit.
Yeah, and as part of his regular show, when he really wants to shock an audience, he'll show it in front of them.
I tried showing that to my wife, and it was I went easier on her. I was like, I'll put on the Riff Tracks version. She did not make it 15 minutes in, like, to Fun in Balloon Land. She didn't even make it to when the rest of it just becomes parade footage. Like, Lord knows what would have happened if she sat through all of that part.
It is, yeah, because there are some films that one could watch just on their own, but there are others where you need something like Riff Tracks. There are some films like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, right? Which I can watch riff or non.
Same.
Right? But then there are others where I've tried to watch them without any type of riffing.
Santa Claus and the Ice Cream Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Impossible.
Monster A Go-Go.
Impossible. Monster A Go-Go.
Yeah, Monster A Go-Go's hard. It's kind of hard with the riff too, honestly. But like, yeah, no, some of them are fun to watch when you watch them unriffed because they have the parts that aren't in the movie, like Mitchell. Like, when you watch Mitchell unriffed, I kind of like it, like, because like it does put in parts that actually do sort of make the story make more sense. It's like, oh, that's why John Saxon isn't in the movie anymore.
Talk about a time capsule.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
When something could be in theaters and look like a TV movie.
Exactly.
Like, and it kind of feels like a pilot.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with nudity, like, and if you watch Mitchell unriffed and you get to the sex scene, it's more graphic. If you ever were like, I think this should be more graphic, good news. Buy it on DVD.
So what do you think distinguishes the movies, the ones that you can watch either or, the ones you have to have the humor? I mean, what makes it for you?
Personal taste, I guess. It's whatever your own personal experience. Like, if it's the kind of bad thing that maybe isn't quite your speed, like something like Monster A Go-Go. Like, even though I think that would be hard for most people, but if it's the kind of bad where they really don't have much and it's just dialogue and very dry in that I think is I know people who can get through it easier, but I think it comes down to taste.
Yeah, for me it is kind of the early action, as you mentioned, Mitchell, and those kind of films that, 70s, detective, Die Hard kind of things.
Yeah.
Those for me go better with riffing, but I'm a complete horror and science fiction geek, so if it's quote unquote bad horror with ridiculous special effects, screams that you never buy, this person is even startled, monster with the ping pong ball eyes, and Larry Buchanan cheapies, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. I'll just watch those and just to enjoy, them. And there's something about, especially the horror and science fiction films, where you get the feeling, especially with Ed Wood, that they are loving what they're doing.
Oh, yeah,
They are really enjoying what they're doing. And that comes through the film.
Yeah.
Then there are some films where they're just making a buck, and you appreciate that too, because it strikes you as funny. That, they thought this was going to make some money, and look at this thing.
Or when something something really went wrong during the making of it. Meaning, maybe it started out with okay intentions, but drifted away. Like, remember the Creeping Terror?
Oh,
that one's tough to get through. But you're watching it, and the dialogue's muted, and it's all the scenes just being explained to you through narration. So you're watching it going, something happened during the making of this.
Yeah, like that footage was a different movie entirely.
Yeah.
And it got sold to someone else who's like, okay, we gotta make something of this, do a couple wraparound shots, and then, hey, we'll just make a narration.
And you'll go down a rabbit hole in that movie too, because like the director, I think, was a con man, and something Vic Savage, I think that was his name. Was that his name? Yeah.
There's a whole movie on. Yeah.
I saw that trailer. Yeah, because I was like, this would make a really good movie, and then I looked at like, it is. I need to watch this, and yeah, I think like the sound box, like I don't know, it fell in some water or something, but like, yeah.
Took a break briefly. Are there questions from the audience?
I have a question for both of you. Have you seen any bad movies lately?
Have I seen any bad movies lately? Oh, what's the worst movie I've watched recently? Well, I had seen it before, and I just rewatched it because I did an episode on it. I think it airs tonight, as a matter of fact. Don't Look in the Basement.
Yeah, I love it.
Don't Look in the Basement.
Yeah.
I just wrote that last week, and it airs this week. The acting is good. It's hard to call it a bad movie because the acting is good. It is a genuinely kind of terrifying horror film, but it's got such a mean edge to it.
Dude,
such a mean, very grindhouse film to it that I had to put warnings all over it. I do a family show. I do some creative editing for the thing too.
They are characters in that.
Oh yeah, but that's probably the most recent one.
I just did one on Left Behind 3.
Lou Gossett Jr.?
Yeah, Lou Gossett Jr. He's the president. He's the president, Lou Gossett Jr. And because I had done episodes on the first two, and the first two I was like, weirdly, these are kind of the better Left Behind movies. And then I got to the third, and the third is like, that makes like that horrible mistake where they make a whole movie version out of just like 2 chapters in a book. Oh. So it's like, it goes nowhere. Like I got to the end, and it's the last one of that trilogy, and it has a cliffhanger. It has a cliffhanger where at the end, Kirk Cameron says the line, "We need to talk," and then it does that kind of cliffhanger. I'm like, I was mad. I was like, this is trilogy wasted my time. Like, I haven't been this mad since Rise of Skywalker. That was the last one I watched.
What are your top 3 personal bad movies that you love to hate? Your top 3.
Love to hate.
No, not love to hate, that are bad but we love still.
Oh, that I love. And that changes from day to day depending on my mood. Right now, I'm going to pick The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Yeah.
Fun film, one of the sleaziest horror films ever made. Guy's girlfriend gets decapitated in a car accident. He goes out shopping for a body to put her head on.
It's true love.
It's true love. It's a sleazy film. One of the more creative ones, and I hesitate to call it a bad movie because it's just done so well. Spider Baby. I love Spider Baby. I mean, Lon Chaney Jr.'s last really good performance. Not his last performance, but his last really good performance where he held off of the bottle for a while to actually give a performance. A third one. It's too hackneyed, but Plan 9, you gotta love Plan 9. And you gotta love Ed Wood because he's loved what he's doing so much, you know. And that comes through every frame of film that he does. You know?
PlayStation 5 system.
My favorite movie is Caligula. It's insane that it exists. It's fascinating it exists. It combines so many of my favorite things in one movie. Being Roman epics, adult films of that era, where like the adult films back then had plots and genres, and really over the top theatrical acting, and it's all of that in one film. And it also kind of works as a political satire about excess and everything. And I've got a 16mm reel of it at home. Yeah, a guy was selling it on Facebook a couple years ago, and I wrote to him like, "I'll take it." And he like knew who I was. He's like, "It's yours." And that there's one in the 80s called Screwballs that Roger Corman produced, and it was made in the era of like Porky's and the Shenanigans high school movies. There was this movie called Screwballs that is a parody of them, but it's not that it's played straight. It plays with all the different tropes of those genres, but it is advertised like it genuinely is one of those, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is in a parody universe. This is like having a lark in a lot of these films. So the whole plot is just that it's about these 5 guys in high school who are just trying to see this girl naked, and the girl's name is Purity Bush, and one of the guys' names is Melvin Jerkovsky. Guess why he gets detention? So, and each of the 5 guys are all of different cliques. So it's like the nerdy guy. Then there's the rich guy who there's subtle things about the movie. The rich guy through the whole movie is carrying a tennis racket with him, and it like never explains this. He just is.
It's identified as the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has a blazer, like everything, like, and you can picture what his hair looks like, very blonde and coiffed. Like, it's really funny, and it's super clever and underrated. That's one of my go-to, but it's a schlocky, but it works. I love Rat's Night of Terror. I love the originality. I love Bruno Mattei, who directed it. I love the originality that it is this killer rat movie where they're trapped in this location. There are rats trying to kill them, but they went the extra mile of being, no, let's make it post-apocalyptic. And that is so original. I it inspired my book that I just came out with, where I wrote this slasher book where I'm like, let's make it halfway through post-apocalyptic. It's on Tubi if you haven't seen it, so check it out. Rat's Night of Terror.
That's something about some bad movies too, is some of them are like a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
Like I love the in space movies.
Oh yeah.
Leprechaun in space, Jason X in space.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hat on a hat. Take a serial killer, put him in space. Take a leprechaun, put him in space. I love that.
They just put the Amityville house in space.
Yes. Yes, Amity in space.
Dude, vanish it up to space through a portal. Oh, that'll get rid of it once and for all.
Well, then the title says it all, right? I mean, there's no question. Leprechaun in space. I mean, it's about as high concept as you get. Just the title tells you everything you need to know.
And look at the entertainment we're just getting out of the title.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing about these movies. It's just, you know what that's going to be. Right?
Yeah, it gives you it's that old joke where like it lets you see a free movie in your head.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and that was so much about just sort of exploitation films generally, is that they would sell the properties on titles and art, and they're like, okay, now we have to make the movie, it's never going to be as good as those images.
Well, and plus, like, it depends on what era you're watching them into, because when you get to, like, Italy in the early 80s, it was a lot of the producers saying to directors like Bruno Mattei, like, go make me Mad Max, go make me Dawn of the Dead, go make me this movie. And they would, because Rats is, it's inspired off of the Road Warrior. But at least that was an era where they did still want to make an entertaining movie. Sure. Like, maybe they weren't making the best movie in the world, but they knew directors like that, especially there in Italy at that time, they knew it couldn't be boring. Like, and boy, howdy, did they not make it boring.
Well, we got just a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that I give each of you a chance to sort of tell the audience where they can find you, or maybe anything you've got coming up that they may want to know about. So we'll start with Lord Bloodrock.
Yeah, thanks. You can catch my TV show, Lord Bloodraw's Nerve-Wracking Theater, on the Nostalgia Network. And that's the best way to get it here, I believe, is streaming on Roku, Sling Free, Distro, a bunch of different platforms. It's on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So here, I guess it's 8 because it's Central, right? So it'd be 8 p.m. here. And then they repeat it again at 2 a.m. Eastern, so it'd be 1 a.m. here. They repeat it again. You can also check out my podcast. I do a podcast called Lord Bloodraw's Nerve-Wracking Auditorium, where I host old-time horror radio shows. And that you can get that anywhere. You can get podcasts, and it comes out every Saturday. My newest show is called Captain Paxar's Star Cadet Hour. And I host old 1950s kids sci-fi shows. Flash Gordon, Captain Zero, Commando Cody, Sky Marshal of the Universe, that kind of thing. And that's on YouTube. You can also catch the other shows on YouTube as well. As far as out here, that's... Yeah, check out my YouTube channel. Check out the Nostalgia Network.
You can find me on YouTube. The channel is Stone Gremlin Productions. If you type in The Cinema Snob on YouTube, that's my main show. That's where a bunch of videos will come up. It's a riff show that is like a comedy review show on old exploitation movies, different slasher genres and stuff from the 80s. A little bit of a lot of stuff that as the years have gone on. But I just wrote my first book, which is called Class of '86, and that's over at our table, over at the entrance. It's a very rare edition of the book that has a few typos in it. They couldn't be fixed before my author copies came, so I've been signing it as that. I'm like, just so you know, this one's really rare.
So all you collectors, make sure and get that.
Yes, please.
Cool. So, and again, they both have tables up towards the front area, and I imagine you're happy to answer questions there as well.
I guess, maybe.
And you can find me on Twitter at Eric Wesselman. I've got a YouTube channel called Digital Golgotha Productions, where I have some of the panels that I've officiated, as well as just some other vodcasts where I talk comics, movies, all things nerdy, from generally a psychology angle, but I kind of like to draw on a lot of other things too. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to my guests here today, and please enjoy the rest of your con.